Natalia Staneva. I am Executive Director of the New West Symphony, and I'm so delighted to introduce our music director, Marcelo Leninger, who is joining me for this program. Welcome, Marcelo.
Good morning.
This morning, we are very fortunate to feature a world-renowned pianist, Andrew Van Oeyen. And Andrew has been a friend of ours for about 4 years now. And this is his repeat performance at New West Symphony with a brand new program, of course. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on stage Andrew Van Oeyen, who will perform Chopin's Nocturne. Andrew, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How did the rehearsal go last night with the orchestra?
Well, it was very interesting because it was the first time I'm playing this Prokofiev left-hand piano concerto. I believe it's your first time doing it as well.
It's my first time.
And I think it went pretty well, actually. We're doing two concerti on the program, the Haydn D major and the Prokofiev left-hand concerto. Completely different pieces. What's interesting is that the Haydn doesn't really require any left hand, or very little left hand, and the Prokofiev, it's all left hand, and difficult left hand, and not the easiest piece to either put together with an orchestra, but I thought that the rehearsal went very well, and I'm really looking forward to the concerts.
So how did the practice go? I mean, you probably used your both hands equally, right? Then.
To learn the piece?
Yeah.
I wish. That's the thing. I mean, you know, with a left-hand concerto, if you're making a recording, you can cheat, and the right hand can help you. But not in a performance. I think, yeah, it would not be fair. I mean, I have enough integrity to play the left-hand concerto for the left hand, and so you'll notice in the performance, my right hand will just sort of rest in my lap. It will have an urge to move to the keyboard, but you know, gotta resist it.
How do you even approach a piece like that when you start thinking about, okay, I need to practice? How do you even start? What's the process?
Well, for me, I have to be honest, I don't play any other left-hand piano concerti. Perhaps if I had already performed a Ravel left-hand concerto, which is probably the most well-known of the left-hand concerti, this may have come a bit easier, or I don't know, I may have had some tips from that. I actually, this sounds kind of funny, but I did call a colleague a few weeks ago. I said, where does my right hand actually go in the performance? Do I rest it on the side of the piano or the sideboard, or do I keep it in my lap? So basically, to answer your question, I approach it just like any other concerto. But it is a very interesting exercise for the brain, because I do believe that, I don't think it's a belief, it's a fact that our right hand and our left hand are driven by different parts of the brain, and so, and I'm a right-handed person. So this is sort of very unusual for me. I feel like a fish out of water performing like this, but.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the history of this concerto, and why was it written for just left hand?
Well, it was written for a pianist, Wittgenstein, who lost his right arm in World War I. And a number of composers actually composed concerti for him. Ravel,
Including Ravel, yeah.
Prokofiev, Britten, Hindemith. And apparently, though, he was very ungrateful for this concerto. He didn't get the piece. He didn't like it very much. At least that's what he initially said. I don't know if he actually went on to play it later.
He didn't, I think.
He did not ever play it.
He did not, but he said he wasn't ever ready to play it.
Yeah. A bit, well, if he couldn't play it, that's one thing, but I don't know if he didn't like it or if he couldn't play it. And then, sadly, it was never performed in Prokofiev's lifetime. So, and again, it's not a very frequently performed work. I mean, you'll hear Prokofiev's third concerto much more frequently, the first concerto, the second concerto, but the fourth, even the fifth, but the fourth, partially because of its difficulty, partially because it's an unusual work, and it's not the kind of piece, I think, that makes audience leap to their feet at the end, because it ends very quietly, fast but quietly, and but it's interesting, and I mean, I truly love Prokofiev, and it's filled with moments of brilliance, and brilliance in the orchestration, brilliance in the colors, in the acidic kind of harmonies, and it fits really well on this program.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Marcelo, how did you come up with this program for this upcoming concert? It's somewhat eclectic, but at the same time, it's been really popular because it has some popular pieces as well.
Yeah, well, we, part of the New West Symphony tradition, we have for the second Masterworks series, we have a program with smaller instrumentation. So of course, I loved doing Haydn and Mozart and young Beethoven and all those great classical period musics. But I thought about creating a program that mixed Haydn and Mozart with some what we call neoclassics, which is Prokofiev. And of course, the classical symphony is just a great, really great piece. We're opening the program with the Prokofiev's classical symphony, and then moving to the Haydn D major piano concerto, and then Prokofiev fourth piano concerto, and then Mozart Hafner symphony. So I think, and I'm conducting the same program later next year with Seattle Symphony. And I never heard about the Prokofiev left-hand piano concerto. I need to be honest, you know, I've been conducting for 15 years, and when they asked me to do it, it's like Prokofiev left-hand piano concerto. So I thought, do I have to conduct with my left hand only? I'm flirting with the idea, I don't know yet, but so I think we create that program for Seattle, and I thought it would be a great program to present here with the New West Symphony. And I do believe it's a very interesting program. And the Prokofiev concerto, even though it's not an ending piece like Rock 3 or something like that, but I really like the piece. When I started learning and studying the score, I actually discovered a lot of interesting things and irony, and I started liking the piece, so it was a nice discovery.
Well, Andrew, I wanted to talk a little bit about your background. It's very rare for us to feature somebody who was born in the area. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where were you born? Went to school?
I was actually born in Detroit, and lived there for the first year of my life. I don't remember it much. Then we came out here. And actually, literally in Thousand Oaks is where I lived the first 8 years of my life. And then Malibu, we moved to Malibu and went to high school in Santa Monica. And I've been constantly moving east since then. When I went to study at Juilliard in 1998, I fell in love with New York, and I've kept a place there ever since. Then I fell in love with Paris and got a place there, and which was also for mostly personal reasons, but also because it proved to be a very sort of strategic location with concertizing in Europe, and you know, you can pretty much fly anywhere in the world. And interestingly enough, I am back here again. I recently got a house in Malibu, so I am a neighbor again. And I'm giving up New York, so I will make basically Los Angeles, Paris, my two bases. Very excited to be back here.
Welcome. I'm sure your parents are excited. They still live in Malibu.
My parents live here, and so it's great. And you know, it just made sense to have one warm climate place and one cold climate. Yeah, I didn't need to be in either. I mean, I love New York. It's not that I got tired of New York or anything, but you know, two big cities or rather one big city is enough. You know, don't need two. And
I want to talk a little bit about your recent recording. I don't know if you recorded it in Paris or New York or here.
Germany.
Germany, okay. So what is I just recently saw it on the website, so I apologize for not knowing the contents, but I know that it's been quite popular and rising in the charts recently, so. It's,
yes, it's an album of solo piano music of Debussy, Stravinsky, and another local composer, David Newman, who you know, I know, film composer, Oscar-nominated film composer, and he wrote a few pieces for me, and which actually fit very nicely in the program on the album, because stylistically there's some similarities with the Debussy pieces and the Stravinsky pieces. So yeah, I'm very excited about it. The album includes the book one of the preludes, L'Île Joyeuse, and then it also has in Stravinsky pieces the piano rag, 3 movements of Petrushka, and then the 2 pieces of David Newman. I may be forgetting something. It's a very long album, so get your money's worth.
But it will be on sale during the intermission and at the end of the concerts this weekend.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about our performances in Oxnard Performing Arts Center this Friday, and Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza on Saturday, and Barnum Hall in Santa Monica on Sunday. And being the executive director of the Symphony Orchestra, I have to plug in our new website. It's www.newwestsymphony.org, and I hope you go on the website to learn more about Andrew, about the program, about Marcelo. We have interesting new videos coming up every day. We put new things on the website. So Andrew, what are you going to play next for us?
Well, since you mentioned the album, I thought I would play something from it. This is the last prelude of Book 1 of Debussy's Preludes, called Minstrels.
Thank you. Thank you. I've never heard this piece before. Andrew, what were your major musical influences when you were growing up and recognizing that you were a musician now?
I would have to say, and she'd kill me if I didn't say this, my mother probably, because she's a musician and she's a singer, and I grew up hearing her singing in the house, giving lessons in the house, hearing her play the piano in the house. So definitely from an early age, she was certainly an influence. And then in both my parents, my father's not a musician at all, but loves music and values classical music and valued my education with regard to classical music. I mean, they really made an effort to expose me to a lot of concerts, repertoire, teachers. So at a very young age, I really was really surrounded by music and by people who cared and valued it. And then after that, probably one of my first piano teachers was a huge influence on me here in the area. And you know, I've worked with a lot of different teachers over the years. I was not one of those pupils who is sort of a disciple of one school, not the Russian school, not the German school or the French school. I mean, I've really worked with people from all of these schools, and that's actually suited me well because my repertoire is very large. And so I feel that I really was influenced by people who really understood all these styles. And I mean, for example, one of my teachers, I mean, his was a pupil of Rubinstein, Cortot, Edwin Fischer, and William Capell. I mean, so how do you don't get really more diverse influences and greater figures than that.
When did you realize that you perhaps had this unusual talent? Because you started playing at a very young age.
Well, I think probably because, you know, as a young person, you weren't necessarily aware of your gifts, but my parents certainly noticed it right away because they noticed I had an ability to play by ear, and that's something that you can't really be taught. That's something that is indicative of a certain talent, and they recognized that probably, I mean, at age 5 or so. And then I just enjoyed it so much. Music came to me very naturally. And so I think right away I knew that music was going to be really my path and was my passion, has been always my passion. So it's unusual, you know, most people don't really figure out what they want to do till much later in life, and I really have always known. So.
What was your most exciting musical experience in Paris or New York, where you lead quite a cosmopolitan life? So.
In Paris, that's interesting. I don't know, you know, to be honest, I can't think of one experience, but there's just certain concerts that stand out in my mind in really great concert halls, and some have been in Europe, some have been in this country, and those are really great memories. And being in Paris, I mean, just going back to your question, I mean, I have actually a lot of really good musician colleagues there, and we're always performing somewhere in France or in Paris, and we're very supportive of each other, so that's been very nice. And there's something very special in Paris about living in the city that had so many musical luminaries, and Chopin, of course, being one of them, Liszt being one of them, Mozart at one time being one of them, and to realize that, that even some of the concert halls they visited and played in, so that's kind of special.
I bet, and at a very young age, you already have so many experiences. Speaking of the concert halls, Marcelo, where are you performing in the next couple of months? I know right after U.S. Symphony, you're going to Venezuela. How does the rest of the year look like?
Yeah, I'm going to Venezuela for the first time, and I'm conducting the Simón Bolívar Orchestra.
That's Gustavo Dudamell's orchestra.
That's Gustavo's orchestra, so it's very nice. I'm going there and visiting his orchestra. I'm very honored and happy, and I'm doing an all Brazilian program there, so it'll be interesting too. And then I'm also going to Berlin. I'm making my debut at the Philharmonie, which is an incredible concert hall. I've been there as audience member, but now I'll be on stage, so that'll be great. And I'm doing that in December, and then I'm flying directly to Toronto, and I'm doing my debut with the Toronto Symphony in Canada. So it's busy. And then next year, I'm really proud. I'm going to record with a very special and dear friend of mine, the pianist Nelson Freire. And we're going to record together for Decca label. And we're doing one of the pieces actually in the album, it's a piece we're doing later in the season, which is the Villa-Lobos Momo Prokofiev. And then he's also playing the Falla Nights in the Gardens of Spain. So we're doing that next year, and I'm really happy. So great things, and of course, my continuous work with Boston Symphony and New West. So it's been great. Yeah.
You are a busy man.
I'm a busy man.
And you're also going on a tour in Asia next year, right? With Boston Symphony Orchestra.
That's true. Yeah, I'm tagging along with the musicians, and we're going on tour in China and Japan. But I'm actually flying from here. I'll be here, and then I'm going to. It just makes more sense geographically. So I'm doing that right after the last concert of our season.
You both travel so much, and you probably have a lot of mileage already. And I wanted to talk a little bit about music education, since you travel a lot and you are experiencing a lot of countries and a lot of systems. Can you tell us a little bit? I know Andrew actually did a master class yesterday here in Thousand Oaks at the Keyboard Concepts for 5 students. Can you tell us a little bit more about your experiences with music education in different countries, the importance of music education, and just a little bit of your background and your experiences with it? We'll start with Andrew.
With me first. Well, I can begin by saying I do a lot of work in Asia. Probably every year I'm doing some kind of tour in Asia, and without a doubt, the music education is better there than here. And you know how you know that? You look in the audience and you see lots of young people. And that's not always the case in the Western world. So things are looking bright there. I think this is, my goodness, it's terribly important. I do like to give master classes wherever I go, but again, master classes are geared toward the select few, generally, who are talented and who are seriously pursuing a career as a pianist. So that's special. I do also sometimes outreach projects and go into schools and talk and play. But this is very, very important, and I'd like to see more of a value of that in this country and also in Europe, because Europe is losing it too a bit at a young age.
I remember going to concerts in Russia, and we did have a lot of young students, but that was because after the regular school, we were either in the sports or music, and it was mandatory. But you learn at the very young age to appreciate music, and that's a thing to do, you know, and when you go out.
And it's a very important, as Andrew mentioned, in Asia. I think they understand that music it's a very important thing as part of your general education. Even though you have in China, you have about 40 million people studying piano, for example, and maybe a few number of them will become Langlands and Hughes and all the great pianists, but it's part of their education, and I do believe it's so important to have that in your education as much as learning mathematics or chemistry or physics. It's just a very important part of education, and enriches your soul, and it becomes part of your life. For those who love classical music, I can't live without it. Even if I was not working with classical music, I can't live without it. It's just a very important part of my life. And I think the Asian education system and the parents, they understand the importance of that and exposing their children to classical music and good music. And it's really interesting, for example, what's happening in South America. I'm visiting, as I said, Venezuela, and they have this El Sistema, which is a very important education system with music for underprivileged kids. and just giving them the opportunity not only to play an instrument and maybe to even become professionals in the future, but to have that in their lives and keep them out of the streets and doing something meaningful and great. In Brazil now, I'm really proud of my country because we just approved a law that music now, by law, it has to be in the schools, in the public schools. So you have millions of kids exposed to music right there. So I think that's so important. But here, I found being, of course, music director of an American orchestra, I found that we have to do something, because if we don't have, in some of the schools, we don't have music, and if it's not part of the culture for some families to expose their kids to music and other forms of arts, of course. We have to do something, and I'm proud of New West, and I'm proud of all education projects and what we're doing with harmony projects, symphonic adventures, music of Oeyen, and everything that we're doing to fulfill that lack that we have. So we're doing our part, and I'm proud of New West Symphony.
Good, me too. I think that in the last couple of years, we have shifted our focus from being just an entertainment organization to a service organization. And we realized that we need to play a big role in music education. We have a number of programs. For those of you who are here for the first time, we do symphonic adventures programs for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And these are interactive concerts designed specifically for the age of the students and in line with California education standards. We also have a music van, and it's interesting because I just recently heard that, bring that classroom on wheels. What do you call it? What do you call it? And I said, oh, it's a music van. So it's on 101 freeway every day. It's in schools, at festivals, and we have a number of students who are exposed to music van every day. We also just recently adopted a new program called Harmony Project of Ventura County, because there is Harmony Project also in Los Angeles. So we are their counterpart in Ventura County. Right now we have, it's going to be close to 120 students with the next class of 30 students that we are enrolling very soon. And I'm so proud of that program. I know Marcelo witnessed the students playing at the New West Symphony Concert Hall last May. Most of them have never played an instrument before, or have never even heard about the instrument. And the school that we adopted, out of 600 families, 100 are homeless. And it's so meaningful for them to have a place to go after school and have those 5 hours of instruction a week and have a great role model. Role models, because we hire teaching artists to train the young kids. So it's been a very rewarding program for us. We also have a VIP Family Club. We subsidize tickets for the young families to experience live concerts. And I know, Andrew, last time that you performed in Nocturne Performing Arts Center, we had the young girl in the pink dress who was dancing while you were performing. She was dancing she was dancing in the aisle. So it was actually a very interesting experience.
It's great, and I really like that, to have the kids in the concerts, and it's a great idea. It's a great concept that the kids now need to bring the parents to the concert hall. So
we take them backstage, we give them a backstage tour, and since the beginning of the season, by the way, we just had the season opening concert with Sarah Chang, your recital partner, last year. When we opened the season, we now do demonstrations by musicians in the Founders Room during the intermission by one of our musicians to the Front Row Club kids. So it's an interesting and exciting time for us, because New West Symphony shifted shifted the focus to service our communities, and we're now talking to the libraries as well about presenting music series at the libraries as well. So it's been exciting. But now going back to the program for the upcoming concert, because I know a lot of you want to hear and learn a little bit more. What I would like to know, Andrew, is that when you play Haydn concerto, you know that it's one of the popular concertos. How do you find new angles, inspiration? It's been played so much and analyzed so much and interpreted so much. How do you add your own take on it?
Well, the Haydn was the first piano concerto I learned. I made my orchestral debut at age 10 with the piece. So I've lived with it a long time. Oddly enough, I have not played it much since then. So it's very fresh for me. And I feel it's certainly, there's no chance of it getting stale because I've played it not enough for it to be that way. And when I was just, you know, thinking about on last night's rehearsal, wow, I'm definitely playing this piece very differently than I did all those years ago. And one thing I like to do with classical concerti that does keep them fresh is I write my own cadenzas for them, unless the composer, like a Mozart or a Beethoven, wrote a better one. And kind of hard to compete. And so actually, it's funny because I played this Haydn a few years ago, and I conducted it from the keyboard, and I wrote a cadenza, and the strangest thing is I can't even remember what I did. So literally, I didn't write it. I sort of played something. I wrote something without writing it down, okay? So I couldn't remember what I did, so I had to write a few weeks ago, come up with something else for the first and the second movement. So that's a way of keeping it fresh. And I find that's very important, actually. It connects you a little bit more directly to the thought process of the composer. It makes you feel like you are just, brings me more inside the music when I can write my cadenza. It's very hard to explain, but it's like a connection with the composer's hand. And the Haydn is such a fun, light-hearted piece. I certainly do not predict all of the ornamentation each time. You probably noticed that last night. You can really have a lot of fun with the piece. So, you know, also, but to answer your question on a sort of a larger level, like how do you keep pieces fresh? Well, if I'm playing a piece that's very familiar, such as the Tchaikovsky First Piano Concerto, I don't tend to listen anymore to many recordings of the piece because it's not really helpful. And you know, and we want to have creative freedom, and sometimes recordings can stifle that creativity.
Interesting, and it's because every single artist, when asked the question, has a different answer. They don't play it for a while, and then all.
Well, that also works.
Yeah.
Sabbatical, that works.
Yeah, sabbatical. Yeah. Marcelo, can you tell us a little bit more about the classical symphony, Prokofiev's classical symphony?
Well, it's really interesting to have Prokofiev writing a symphony. When I think about Prokofiev and many other symphonies that he wrote, I just mentioned that the Fourth Symphony was commissioned by Boston Symphony, and the Sixth Symphony. They're really complex kind of music, both technically and to listen to. And but that's not the case with the classical symphony. It's as joyful, and I think what he was probably trying to achieve is that it is still possible to write music in that style, and he mastered. I mean, it's a masterpiece. And of course, he inputs his own signature, and you have those Prokofiev moments in the piece as well, but it's as joyful as you listen to a Haydn symphony. So it's a very special and very well-known symphony. And the thing with the classical symphony, it's really hard for the orchestra. I mean, everyone in the orchestra, especially the woodwinds and the string players, they have really, really hard parts. It was nice to program that and see the musicians really into, in the rehearsal process and getting better and better, just because it's a very hard piece to put together. And then we have, it's nice to have Haydn and Mozart in the same program. We tend to think they're, somewhat alike. And it is true somewhat in the style, but I think they're completely different. And you think about, for example, Mozart. You think about his fun and trying to joke around and making fun with music. But the Hafner Symphony, it's a very noble kind of symphony, and of course it was written for a noble family, but it's a very noble and beautiful music. But then the Haydn, it's where the fun really happens and full of jokes and irony, and it's just, so it's interesting to have all those pieces in the program. Somewhat they match and combine with each other. So I believe in the program, and I think you enjoy as well.
Well, thank you. I am always very, very curious about the guest artist meeting the conductor for the first time and playing on stage together. Can you comment on your experiences when you walk into the hall and meet the conductor and you sit down at the piano? What do you expect, and how do,
I'll start.
Okay.
Okay, so no, it's really interesting because our profession is so crazy sometimes, because you are going to share the stage, and you're going to share emotions, and you are going to be in a very incredible situation. But sometimes you just meet the soloist like minutes before the rehearsal. And it's a little awkward sometimes, and we never know what to expect. So before I meet a soloist, I'm, is he a nice person? Is he a diva? Is will it be friendly? Will the work process? Exactly. Will the work process will be easy? So you never know what to expect, especially with singers. But I love working with singers. But sometimes it's hard. But yeah. But it was very nice. I've been fortunate just to meet wonderful people and truly great talents that are also, very personal and very nice people. And of course, meeting Andrew last night was great because we just met and hello, how you doing? And you live here, and 2 minutes of conversation, and we jump in the music. We start talking about Prokofiev and tempo and where you're doing whatever, and it was a very interesting work process. And I think we just connect right there, and the rehearsal was easy. I mean, he is a great pianist. He is, of course, a nice guy as well. And it was, I was a little scared with the Prokofiev piano concerto as well, because it's my first time conducting it. But he made it easy. And when we finished the first reading through, I was like, well, that's not that hard. And because I had his help, and he just made it easy. So it was very nice.
Likewise, I was a little nervous about it because I'd never done the piece before. And I'm that way with any piece for the first time. And he made it so easy, such a clear beat, because you have to be very, very precise in this piece, and for the orchestra and for the pianist. And yeah, I mean, most of the time, and at least, I mean, you have a music directorship, so you get to work with familiar people often, which is your orchestra, and Natalia, your staff and administration. And but then in my case, I'm always meeting new people, and always a guest wherever I go, whether I'm a recitalist or with an orchestra. I mean, unless I'm doing chamber music. That's true, that's the one exception. So I've gotten kind of used to it. Unknown conductor, or somebody unknown to me, somebody I've not worked with, unknown piano, unknown concert hall. You just have to sort of dive in, but you never know what's going to happen. And you know, in this case, it worked out really well, but it was so interesting what you pointed out, that it's kind of strange when you meet the conductor, you meet the soloist, and you talk for just a few minutes, and you hardly know each other, and then you dive into this very kind of intimate process, which is music making, sharing feelings, and it's sort of like two actors diving into a scene where a very an intimate, emotional scene they have to play, you know, with each other, and they've never really met, and that's the only thing I can really liken it to, and so it's a little bizarre on that level, and sometimes what's interesting is you give a concert and it goes well, and you feel really close to the conductor musically, but then you go out and you have a drink afterward, and you're like, oh, we don't really have anything to talk about. Our communication works better musically, and but in this case, no, it's really nice because we can connect, I think, on both levels. So we're gonna have lunch together after the show. So
yeah.
Great, and it won't be painful, I'm sure.
That's where we create programs like Meet the Artist, so you can actually talk and connect. And I know that performances are much better after we do this conversation. So, Andrew, I wanted to ask you, what do you want to close the program with?
Another piece by Debussy that you all know very well, Clair de Lune.